Kuang knows how to write a book. This is just such a stunning proof, which took me by surprise because I was not expecting that. Every single book in this series has been 5 stars. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about all of the books that I read in April. This month I read 5 books, which is really good going for me. I'm averaging about 4 to 5 books a month now, which is really cool. So I'm going to be talking about all of those books, all of my thoughts and feelings and ratings on them. And then after I've given you all my reviews on the books I've read this month, I'm going to be talking about my May hopefuls and books I hope to read in May. And then we're going to be creating a journal spread for May. So I'm going to jump in straight into the reviews for this month. I'm not going to be doing them in order, I've just got a stack here, but I'm going to save my favourite book and talk about that one at the end. So we're starting off with The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. The Poppy War is inspired by mid-20th century China, and in my opinion, it's not a nice book to be in, or a world to be in for that matter. I knew from people's reviews that it wasn't going to be a light read, and it's definitely not a light read at all. But yeah, I wasn't entirely sure what to expect, and it's safe to say that this book is quite difficult at times to read. This is a grimdark military fantasy, and it's harsh, it's violent, it's brutal. I found one chapter, but quite a few chapters actually, a little bit difficult to read. I had to have a few mental breaks from reading this book. I was quite surprised to see that there wasn't a trigger warning at the start of this book. I've never been triggered by a book before, or a topic or a theme that's been in a book, and there was 2 things in this book that, yeah, I had to leave the book for a while just to process. I haven't read a military fantasy before, so heavy politics and dark themes are something I'm not really used to reading, and I'm not entirely sure if it's for me. But with that being said, R.F. Kuang knows how to write a book. This book is very well written, and it just felt like an entire series in one book. This felt like 3 books in one. The world is so complex, it's so intricate, and that's for the same for the characters as well. The characters are so incredibly layered, and Rin, especially the main character, she is badass, she is fierce. I wouldn't say it's a book I particularly enjoyed reading because of the amount of dark topics that were in this, and yeah, the ending was shocking. I am and I aren't looking forward to carrying this on because I'm nervous. It feels like a series that no one's safe. I'll definitely be carrying this series on at some point. And yeah, overall I rated this 4 stars. I enjoyed it, but the politics and dark themes are just not always my cup of tea. Next up is Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. This book is a retelling of Medusa's myth. I found this overall to be quite confusing. At the start of this, we get a full list of characters, which was cool to see. Each chapter is a different character's point of view, so I found it quite hard to follow. I thought this was going to be Medusa's story, and so I was kind of expecting it to be a little similar to Madeline Miller's Circe, but Medusa felt like such a side character in this book, which took me by surprise because I was not expecting that. I was expecting Medusa to be at the forefront of this. I just wanted more. I wanted more of Medusa. I guess I was expecting a deeper look into Medusa. We got a lot of other character point of views. Medusa's chapters I felt were very few and far between. We only got snippets of her. I just ultimately found it really hard to connect with her especially, and to be honest, the rest of the characters in this book. However, I have mentioned the reason why I also got this book was because there was supposed to be a lot of Athena in this, and there is definitely a lot of Athena in this book, but it made it feel like it was more of Athena and Perseus's story than Medusa's. I'm feeling a little conflicted. I'm a bit unsure still of it. It wasn't what I was expecting, so I am feeling quite average on this at the moment. I just wanted more of Medusa. I wanted it to be a deeper look into her character. So yeah, I overall rated this 3 stars. I'm just not sure on it. Okay, next up we have The Fury of the Gods by Gwynne. This is the 3rd book in the Bloodsworn saga, and what an amazing, incredible final book to this series. I just can't get over how good these books are. Every single book in this series has been 5 stars. For anyone that doesn't know too much about the Bloodsworn saga, the 1st book is The Shadow of the Gods, the 2nd book is The Hunger of the Gods, and the 3rd book is The Fury of the Gods, and it is a series that is based on Norse mythology. So it's Viking, we've got rugged landscapes, we've got warriors, we've got creatures and gods, and there's a lot of brutal battles in this trilogy. The series is also multiple POV, so it mainly focuses on 3 characters. It's just incredible. It's just such an amazing epic high fantasy, and it's the first high fantasy series that I've now read and completed, so because of that it does hold a very special place in my heart. The way Gwynne writes, the way he writes his battle scenes and the sequences, and is just amazing. I've never been able to picture fight scenes in a book so well and so vividly like I have done whilst reading these books. Gwynne is just an amazing storyteller, he's an amazing writer, and the way that he just creates the atmosphere and everything I've been able to picture whilst reading these books is just spot on. This is a series that focuses on oaths, on loyalty, on determination, warriors, gods, leadership, family, and also courage as well. In the second and also the third book, Gwynne provides a full cast of characters, he provides a recap of the previous books, pronunciation guides, objects and terms that you need to know, and it's just amazing. It gives you all the tools that you need to understand and feel connected to this series. I listened to the audiobook of The Fury of the Gods and a part read it as well, but I mainly listened to the audiobook. It was an amazing end to the trilogy, and yeah, if you haven't read the Bloodsworn Saga yet, I recommend that you do. Like I said, each book in the series I've rated 5 stars, and Fear of the Gods 5 stars. So next up we've got The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. The premise and most importantly the first page is what sold me to read this book. This is the story of Troy behind the scenes. It's a retelling of the Iliad, the Trojan War, the story of Briseis, a queen who became prized bed slave to Achilles. This is a raw story and there are parts that are a little bit hard to read, and it really does make you hate all of the men aside from one, but most of the men in this book. You hate them with a passion. My female rage, never mind Briseis's, my female rage was steaming. Briseis tells the story of the war, tells the grim life of camp, horrible things they had to face in camp like the plague, how women and children were collateral damage to this war, and most of all, men's greed, men's hunger for glory, and men's abuse of power. I found the start of this book incredibly strong. Pat's writing really transported me into the events going on in this book. Not that I really wanted to be transported to it, but that's just the telling of the way she writes. The start of this book is amazing. Briseis is such a compelling narrator, and I felt like she was just talking directly to me. I felt the weight of her pain and her grief and her anger, and honestly the women are the true heroes of this story. This book is a very deep look into Achilles. We saw him through the perspective of Briseis, we saw him through the perspective of himself, and also Patroclus. This book definitely shines a very different light on Achilles. It showed just how many underlying issues he did have. So yeah, going into this, I thought this was going to be the story of the women and Briseis. So I was expecting more of that with this book. I was expecting more of the women. I was expecting it to be entirely Briseis' point of view. But I can also understand why we got such a deep look into Achilles as well. It gave us an insight into the uglier sides to him. So I rated this 4 stars. I did enjoy it, and I just wish it was entirely focused on Briseis. But yeah, I enjoyed this 4 stars. So we're now on to talking about my 5th and final book that I read in April, and it's a book that has impacted me in such a massive way, but in a positive way. It is a book that I haven't stopped thinking about since I've read it. It's a book that is probably one of my favourite reads I've ever read. I love this book so much, and that is Circe by Madeline Miller. This is the most beautiful, captivating, emotional book I've ever read. It's just a gorgeous story. So as a background to who Circe is, if you are unsure on who she is, Circe is the daughter of Helios, god of the sun, and she's been bullied and belittled her entire life by her family for being different. From the start of this book you see that Circe is alienated from the rest of the gods and goddesses, but because of how petty they can be, it's not a surprise. She's told she's stupid, she's useless, but Circe isn't any of those things. She's just not any of those things. Fun little fact as well, Circe is the first witch in Western literature. So yeah, I just knew I was going to love her. I knew I was going to love Circe. I knew I was going to love this book. And I am just in awe of her. I love her. If Circe was a real person, I would 100% want to be best friends with her. This is no further to what's mentioned on the blurb. Circe is exiled to the Isle of Aya. It's not going to be an entirely happy story. She does go through a lot, but it's not an entirely sad one either. Of all the things that she goes through, Circe finds her power. She almost makes the Isle of Aya her own kingdom, and I would call her my queen. I would call Circe my queen. And one thing that I also want to mention as well is that we get Prometheus in this, and I honestly love how similar she is to Prometheus. When I was introduced to Prometheus in mythos, he was a god that really stood out to me because of how gentle and kind he was, because most of the gods that we see in Greek mythology are all petty, they're all trying to one-up each other. And yeah, Prometheus just seemed like such a gentle god. I just love how similar she is to Prometheus. And also throughout this book and throughout Circe's life, we see that a lot of relationships come and go, and there's actually quite a lot of well-known Greek figures that pop up throughout this book as well, which I really enjoyed. Overall, I am just blown away by Madeline Miller's writing, and it just completely transported me. Every time I opened this book, I just felt like I was there on the Isle of Aya, surrounded by olive trees. And yeah, I just never really wanted to leave. I never really wanted this book to end. And I honestly didn't realise that I was reading the last page of this book, and I burst into tears. If you've watched my first reading vlog, you'll have seen my reaction, because I was just filming myself reading, and I knew I was getting towards the end of the book, but I didn't realise I was reading the last page. And yeah, I just felt an overwhelming bittersweet feeling for her. I just love this book so much. I just love this book so much, and I love Circe so much. Circe is powerful. Circe is unique. Circe is an incredibly empowering figure that I think all women should look up to or learn from. Circe in this book teaches us how to show self-love, how to show self-respect, how to live true to yourself, and to most importantly, never change for anyone. And for that, I love this book with my entire heart. I love this book with my entire soul. And yeah, it's up there with one of my favourites of all times. 5 stars, infinity stars, all the stars. This book has got it. I love it so much. And that's a wrap for April. These are all the books that I read in April. I've had a really strong month, really good month. It's been a nice mixture of mainly Greek mythology, but also fantasy as well. I feel like April's been a really good month, and I'm really excited for May. So now it's time to pick my May hopefuls, and we're going to talk about them. And then we're going to make my journal spread together for May. So I've picked out the books that I want to read in May, but it was very difficult. I've mentioned before that I am a bit of a mood reader, and I find it difficult to pick out hopefuls because I have quite a few that I want to read. So I feel like I've picked out more than I can achieve, but we've got wiggle room in case I decide. We've got a nice selection of books that I can pick from, so I'm not limiting myself. I've given my mood reader self options, and that's the main thing. So I'm definitely not going to read this amount of books. I've picked them out, so we'll see how I get on. But the first book that I want to read in May is quite an important one because I'm going to an author event next week. By the time you guys are watching it on Monday, it'll be tomorrow that I go to this, Tuesday. So this book absolutely needs to be read before then, because I don't have to read it before. I don't have to read it for the event, but I'd like to read it for the event because I'm going to be meeting the author that wrote it. The first book that I'm reading in May is Medea by Rosie Hewlett. This is the story of Medea. I don't know much about Medea, but she did pop up in Circe. Medea possesses a mysterious and powerful gift, but at the hands of her tyrant father, the gift is exploited and used to defend the enchanted golden fleece that protects their land. I think this is supposed to be more of a villain story. I think there's a journey that she goes on, she falls in love, there's battle monsters. This book is supposed to be really good, and I think there's supposed to be a bit of a love story as well in this. I'm about to start reading this. I've got my tabs ready. You've seen by now I like to match my tabs to the book that I'm reading for when I'm annotating. This is the first book that I'm reading in May. Next book that I want to read in May is also a Greek mythology, but this is the last Greek mythology that I've picked out for May. I could have done mythology May and just picked out mythology books, but I've read quite a lot of mythology recently, and I'm just wanting a bit more of a mixture this month, so I picked out this one as my last Greek mythology read for May, and it's one that I'm very excited for, and that is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. Can we just take a minute for how stunning this cover is? Absolutely beautiful. So this is the story of Ariadne. She is the daughter to King Minos. So Ariadne and her sister Phaedra grow up hearing the terrible bellows of the Minotaur from the labyrinth. Minotaur, Minos's great shame and Ariadne's brother, demands blood every year. When Theseus, Prince of Athens, arrives in Crete as a sacrifice to the beast, Ariadne falls in love with him. But helping Theseus defeat the monster means betraying her family, and Ariadne knows that in a world ruled by merciless gods, drawing their attention can cost you everything. It just sounds amazing, and this is really highly recommended. Quite a lot of people's favourite Jennifer Saint book as well, so looking forward to this one. The next book that I'd like to get round to reading in May is a book that I was gifted as I won this on a giveaway. If you've watched my first reading vlog, you might have an idea about what this one is. This book is also releasing in May as well, so I would like to get round to it this month, and that is A Fate Forged in Fire by Hazel McBride. And again, this is just such a stunning proof. A Fate Forged in Fire is about a blessed blacksmith who must use her wits and fire magic to become the first queen in centuries and overthrow the corrupt powers ruling the kingdom, while also fighting her desire for her dragon-riding adversary. This is a Celtic-inspired fantasy, and this is the first book in a duology. And I've heard that it's supposed to take inspiration, I think, from House of the Dragon, and I am a massive House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones fan. So yeah, that was one of the main reasons why this book really stood out to me. It just sounds really, really good. There's dragons in it. It's a fantasy. We seem to have quite a strong female main character in this as well that sounds badass. So yeah, this is one that I'm hoping to read in May as well. The next book that I'm hoping to read is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This was given to me as a Christmas present, so I've been waiting to read it in summer. I feel like the cover is giving spring and summer. I've heard that the story doesn't actually give spring, summer. Emily Wilde is good at many things. She is a genius scholar and a meticulous researcher who is writing the world's first encyclopedia of fairy lore. That's the first part of the blurb. Why would you want to know any more? It sounds amazing. She's writing an encyclopedia of fairies. There's going to be fairies in this. And I think she's supposed to travel around to places, and she's also got a rival called Wendell, and it just sounds really whimsical. It sounds really lovely, and it sounds like the perfect book to read in spring, summer. So that's why I picked this one to read in May. The next book that I want to read in May is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinnerman, and this just sounds like the most ridiculous, random book ever. But I started reading a little bit of a preview on Google Books, you know, where it gives you like a little bit of the book you can read. So I started reading the first chapter, and it just sounds so ridiculous, but it sounds amazing at the same time. And because of how ridiculous and funny it is, that's why I want to read it. And there's supposed to be quite a few books in this series as well, which I'm looking forward to. The story also starts out in Seattle, and I'm actually going to Seattle in May with work. But yeah, I think it's like an apocalyptic kind of thing, and it sounds almost like it's a video game. It sounds like it could be a video game. So he's got loot to pick up, he has to complete the levels in a certain time, or he gets left behind and probably killed. It just sounds absolutely wacky. I'm a massive fan of Marvel, and it kind of reminded me of Guardians of the Galaxy, and Guardians of the Galaxy are one of my favourite movies within Marvel. It sounds fun, it's a nice easy read, and it just sounds ridiculous and amazing at the same time. And then these last two books are definitely hopefuls. They're definitely books that I'm not entirely sure I will have time to get round to, but I also know I've got a lot of time to read on the plane over to and from Seattle. So maybe I might get round to one of these. They're both very different books, by the way. The first book is The Hobbit, because yes, I haven't read The Hobbit yet. The Hobbit movies and Lord of the Rings as a universe are one of my favourite fantasy films ever. I love those films so much, and I regularly have Lord of the Rings marathons and The Hobbit marathons. And I actually went to the cinema to watch all of the Hobbit films as well, which was an amazing experience. I'm so glad I did that. This is one I'm really hoping to read very soon, because it seems criminal that I've not read this yet. So this is a hopeful for May. If not, I'm definitely going to be reading this over summer. And the third book is one of my favourite contemporary romance authors. I've read most of her books now, apart from this one and 2 or 3 others, I think. I'm slowly getting through them. I want to read all of her books because I love every single one. I've enjoyed every single one so far, and that is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm just wanting some easier reads. I've read a lot of Greek mythology recently and fantasy, and I'm just wanting some easier reads. High school sweethearts Emma and Jesse. They've moved away from home together, travelling the world, chasing every adventure, building a life of their own. 364 days after their wedding, Jesse is on a helicopter that goes missing mid-flight. Suddenly he just is gone, disappeared. Years later, Emma is back in her hometown. She's grieved, she's learned to live again, she's fallen in love, and one evening she receives a phone call from Jesse. So yeah, she's got a new fiance, and a husband comes back. The book is basically going to cover whether there is such a thing as your one true love. It sounds like a nice easy read. Emotional read, probably, because I find most of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books emotional. The last one I read, Forever Interrupted, I did cry. I wasn't expecting that one to make me cry. Hoping to get round to this one as well. If not, probably June. This is a hopeful. It's not a TBR. These books are all hopefuls that I can decide between. So these are the books I hope to read in May. Whether I get round to them or not is a different matter, but I'm definitely going to be trying to attempt to read in 5 books again this month, because I'm seeming to achieve that at the moment, and I've got a lot of travel time to and from Seattle, so I've got plenty of reading time, and it's a nice mixed bag again. We've got a contemporary romance in here, we've got a bit of fantasy, a bit of Greek mythology, nice mixture, just what we want. These are my May hopefuls. Now it's time to make my May journal spread. There we go, that is my reading journal spread done for May, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. I think it's so pretty, it's so spring summer vibes. I love this little corner down here where I've got a little collage going on with some butterflies. These are all the books I hope to read in May. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I just love making these reading journal spreads. It's so therapeutic, it's so fun, and I love it when these spreads match the current season as well. So yeah, really happy with how this turned out. It's so cute. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed my spoiler-free reviews of all the books I read in April. I've shared the books that I want to or hopefully will read in May, and we've done a little bit of journaling together. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're having a lovely afternoon or evening wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!